Holy City Center Radio, this is episode 326, and I am your host, Christian Sanger. Today is Monday, December 30th, 2024. Hello, everyone. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, and Happy New Year. Yes, all these holidays overlapping. I hope you, whatever you celebrate, if anything, I hope you have been enjoying the holidays, hopefully enjoying some time off of work, spending time with family, friends, whatever it may be. I hope things are going well in your world. Things have been great for me. Back in Connecticut, visiting my family, spending time with my parents and my brother, sister-in-law, and my niece and nephew. It's been an awesome visit, just like Thanksgiving was. Not a whole lot to talk about, but we did have an amazing Christmas. So much fun being with the family and, of course, the kiddos, doing some things here and there, going out to eat. And then also my brother, his father-in-law, and some other folks, we went up to Boston to the Fenway Park Bowl. That's right, Fenway Park, home of the Boston Red Sox. This was the third year, I think, that they hosted a bowl game for college football. And my alma mater, the University of Connecticut, was in the game. I was excited to see them play. I hadn't seen them in person in a couple years. Actually, last time I saw them was in Conway at Coastal Carolina 2 years ago when they made a bowl game, the Myrtle Beach Bowl. So it was fun to, first of all, be at Fenway Park. I haven't been there in well over 10 years. And so it was fun to be back in Boston because that was the last time I was there as well. To be back in the park was fun. And, of course, to see my school play was a blast. We had really good seats. The weather cooperated. You know, it was a little rainy, but it stopped raining right when the game started. And it was great. UConn played well. They ended up winning the game over the University of North Carolina. So some of you listening may have already known that. You may be Carolina fans. So it was a great game. Had a blast. Like I said, the weather cooperated. Getting in and out of the city and the stadium was not a hassle at all. So it went really well. It was a lot of fun to see a bowl game. So other than like the family stuff I mentioned, that's really the only like big thing I did. And, I hope, again, that you guys have and are having an amazing holiday. Obviously, this is the last show of 2024. Depending on my travels, I may have an episode on Wednesday as normal, and that will be the first of the year. So I hope you had an amazing 2024, have a great year ahead. I'm certainly looking forward to the new year. Not that 24 was bad by any means. Had a lot of great memories, and it's, so certainly no complaints here. And I really appreciate all of you for listening this year. And I hope you continue to listen in the new year as the podcast, the website, and everything just continues to soldier on moving forward. We'll see, hopefully, some more fun and exciting things in the new year. But without any further delay, let's get into the latest news. So it's been about a week since the last episode, with travels and the holidays. So we have a few things that you may have heard about, but just in case, I want to touch base on some of these. The first was national news, but certainly resonated here locally. President Joe Biden, he's getting down there in his last few days, I shouldn't say days, weeks in office. And he recently announced that he was commuting the death sentences of 37 of the 40 people currently on death row. Now, these were the people on death row for federal crimes. The president can only commute or pardon people who have been accused of federal crimes. So there's more people on death row, but, they didn't have a trial on the federal level. It would be on the state level. So of the 40 people on death row for federal crimes, 37 had their sentences commuted to life in prison. So it's not like they're getting out of prison. Of those 3 death row inmates, Dylann Roof, who is the man who carried out the 2015 racist killings of 9 people at the Mother Emanuel Church in downtown Charleston, was one of the 3 that did not have his sentence commuted, so he is still on death row. Also of note, of those people who had their sentences commuted to life in prison, they do not have the possibility of parole. So they're not going to be able to get out of prison, barring, obviously something like they were found innocent or something, if they were wrongfully convicted or something like that. But assuming nothing like that happens, they will remain in prison for the rest of their lives. But yes, a lot of people were curious when the news first came out that Biden was debating this. would the Charleston shooter be among those who had his sentence commuted? And it was not. So he is still on death row. Staying in the politics realm, one of the most controversial upcoming bills at the State House here in South Carolina is the so-called Prenatal Equal Protection Act, which would define abortion as homicide. State Representative Josiah Mangeson, who is part of the Freedom Caucus, surprise, surprise, said that this would be the toughest pro-life bill in the country. That is obvious once you hear what exactly this means. So this Prenatal Equal Protection Act would amend state laws and broaden the definition of a person to include an unborn child at any stage of development. So from conception on, this would define, in South Carolina at least, that at conception, that group of cells, whatever, development it is from there, it will be considered a person, which means that an abortion at any moment would be considered a homicide. Currently, in South Carolina, women can have an abortion within the first 6 weeks of pregnancy. This would obviously supersede that. So what that would mean is, if a woman had an abortion, if this law was passed, she could go on trial for homicide and could be found guilty of homicide. And then, of course, that would mean she would be subject to whatever that penalty would be. Life in prison, could be a possibility. Being put on death row could be a possibility. Or, whatever else, maybe 25 years to life is a sentence you hear a lot in homicide cases. So, yes, if this was passed, that's what we would be looking at in the state of South Carolina. So no surprise, this is coming from the Freedom Caucus. They're the super far-right portion of the South Carolina State House who have pushed these kind of extreme bills, not just when it comes to abortion, but others as well. Most of the time, even their Republican colleagues kind of are fed up with them or have not supported them in some of their endeavors, not all of them, because they're so far right and honestly out of touch with what the majority of people, not just in the state, but really in the country, believe. So I'm not confident this will actually pass. I just don't see enough Republicans joining on to this. But you never know. As conservative as the state is, you just never know what could happen. But again, this is coming from someone that is part of a very extreme far right. They're not mainstream Republicans by any stretch, although it may seem like it's, especially this state is starting to become more extreme in that direction. I don't see this happening, but it could. So it's something to keep an eye on and to let your representatives know how you feel about it if it does, move forward in any capacity. Of course, I will keep you posted on any developments. Some sad news to pass on. Timothy Grainger, who is in this area widely known as Timbo the Peanut Man, has passed away. He was just 59 years old. Details about his death have not been made public as of this recording. However, those who knew him said he died while he was at his Dorchester County home on Friday. This is according to local news reports. Specifically, I saw News 2 report it first, but it now has gotten around. But there has been no official cause of death released or any real details. However, Grainger had been suffering from some physical ailments. He had been receiving dialysis treatment several days a week after he lost both of his kidneys in a life-changing diagnosis he had years ago. And it could be related to that, but we just don't know at this time. For those who don't know him, he sold boiled peanuts from what was this iconic orange and peanut-shaped trailer that was along Highway 61 in West Ashley. He was at that location for more than 30 years. It was across from what used to be Three Matadors. I think it's now called the No Bull Burger Bar. It was in that area for those familiar. However, despite being there for over 30 years, he recently relocated just a short distance away, and he actually upgraded his trailer, something a little bit larger. But he relocated after what he said was a dispute with the former property's landlord. So if you hadn't seen the trailer out there in a while, that's why it had moved a little short distance away. Despite his ailments and the fact that he was awaiting a kidney transplant, Grainger continued serving his popular boiled peanuts in West Ashley. Not as often as he used to, but he was still out there serving those peanuts despite having these health issues. So sad day for sure. Someone who was, at least if you didn't know his name or him personally, probably familiar with that orange peanut-shaped trailer. Because, again, when it's sitting in a spot for 30 years, you're at least familiar with that, I'm sure. So certainly sad news, and hopefully friends and family are getting through this difficult time okay. And lastly, and fittingly, a lot of things happened this year, of course. And more important things, obviously, have occurred. But there's been one constant in South Carolina this year. Every handful of months, it seems, there was some weird, unexpected animal or animals that were on the loose. We had a solo monkey at one point this year that was on the loose. Then, of course, the big story, the Alpha Genesis lab where 43 monkeys got out. There were 2 emus, as far as I know, that are actually still on the loose. And it just seemed an overriding theme this year where these like random, maybe some of them exotic animals, not normal pets anyway, for most of the country. Well, in a fitting end to the year, 2 wallabies, yes, wallabies, were on the loose in Simpsonville over the weekend. However, unlike some of the other animals, they have been recaptured. So 2 wallabies went missing in Simpsonville last week. They were both located by Friday, this past Friday. City officials said the wallabies, whose names, if you're interested, were Creed and Sylvester, they escaped an event called Nights of Lights, which, amongst other things, included a petting zoo. It was in Heritage Park in Simpsonville, and they escaped on Thursday. Nights of Lights is also like a walk-through Christmas event with rides, ice skating, and some other things. But yes, there's a petting zoo. That's where these wallabies were. They escaped. But yes, they were both located. If you want, the link in the show notes will have the full story, which also includes video from someone's like Ring camera or something. Or you can see the wallaby who, they kind of resemble small kangaroos. You can see it hopping in someone's yard, which was, just kind of a silly sight to see. But in any event, like I said, very fitting that there was yet another exotic animal, or in this case, animals, on the loose in South Carolina. I'm wondering if this kind of bizarre trend will continue in the new year. But it has been, for a year that's had plenty of bad news, and don't get me wrong, some good news as well, but it's a nice change of pace to be talking about something silly like this, like just random animals being on the run. Certainly makes things a little bit better than when some of the other news you're talking about. But yes, we'll see if that trend continues in 2025. And that'll do it for this edition of Holy City Center Radio. I hope you had an amazing year. You're enjoying the holidays. Be safe, be smart on New Year's Eve. If you're going to be out partying, be sure to have a ride home, sober ride home. And of course, whether drinking or not, or driving or not, other people may be drinking and driving, or who knows what else as they're, taking part in all manner of revelry. Be sure to be safe out there and get the new year started in a good way. Looking forward to continuing on with Holy City Sinner and this podcast in 2025. Excited to continue doing what I love doing, and I so appreciate all of you for whatever manner of support, whether listening, sharing the podcast, sharing stories. If you're a Patreon subscriber, retweets, likes on Facebook, on Twitter, whatever it is, visiting the website, all of that stuff helps out, and I really, really appreciate it. So enjoy your New Year's celebrations. I will possibly have an episode on Wednesday, but it's going to be a little tough because I'll be traveling during the time I normally record, so maybe not. But you should hear from me at some point this week. In the new year. I'm very much looking forward to it. So again, thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. Thank you to Lindsay Marie Collins with LMC Sound System for producing this and every episode of Holy City Center Radio. And thank you to Tyler Boone, whose music you hear in each and every episode as well. I will talk to you in the new year. Already looking forward to it. But until then, good night and good luck.